Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how the DJI Pocket 3 can make you a better videographer by helping you to increase your creativity. Let's get right to it. I've long been of the mind that the more complicated things are, the less creativity you have. Whenever you're in a situation where you have to think about technical aspects, you always find that you do the most mundane, boring stuff. I learned this personally by being a photographer, so that every time you'd try either a brand new lens when you're starting out that you weren't familiar with, you would get focused on the wrong part of it. You'd get focused on your aperture, you get focused on how blurry it was in the back, all these sorts of things. Once these things become automated or in the back of your mind or muscle memory, then your creativity starts to go up. So one of the other ways that you can increase creativity is to reduce the complexity of things in general. So in video, and obviously I'm talking about the Pocket 3 here, in video that means getting rid of a whole bunch of things that tax your mind that you would use in order to improve your video. For example, using a gimbal. First time I used a gimbal, the time it took for me to learn how to set it up and how to balance it and what were the best situations to use it in and how to take the camera off and on that gimbal completely killed my creativity. All I thought about was the gimbal. Same goes for when I was using ND filters, another level of complexity. And one thing after another, audio, you name it, it all made it so that it just gets more and more boring. Of course, you can overcome these things over time. When you're more experienced, then you can kind of learn how to juggle more things at once. And I've learned that myself with photography. I can do with 4 still cameras, I can have 3 video cameras and 3 audio sources and a drone and somehow manage to deal with all of it at once, as long as I have them compartmentalized at the same time. But my point is, with the DJI Pocket 3, we have all of these abilities and features that it can do that allow you to simplify your workflow or simplify your process so that your creativity goes up and you can become a better videographer. Over time, you'll become a better videographer anyways, but at least in this case, it allows you to become creative right away so that your videos look good right from the start. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to list a whole bunch of things that have helped me immediately when using the Pocket 3 so that I don't really have to think about the technical parts. So let's get right into that. One of the big selling points of the Pocket 3 is its 1-inch sensor. And you can argue about how it's not really a 1-inch sensor. But anyways, it's a standard that's used. It's bigger than a sensor you typically get in an iPhone. It's not as big as a full frame or even an APS-C sensor. But for when you have a half decent amount of light, and by half decent I mean even some pretty dark cloudy weather, this 1-inch sensor does a really nice job of making things very crisp and rich. And if you get close enough, you even get a bit of background blur, which if you're going to be doing video, you always want a little bit of that. Apparently not everybody does though. I think there's a lot of people who come from the action camera world with its tiny sensors that can't stand any bit of blur in the image because it means that they have to worry about the focus. I do love this ability. So yeah, the sensor is a big selling point that makes your video look like it's high quality and not overly sharpened and cheesy. You can't talk about the sensor without referring to the 10-bit color of this sensor. It's something pretty special for a sensor this size because it allows you a whole bunch of things actually. It allows you a lot more color grading with your imagery. It allows you to have more dynamic range in the image so that when you get high contrast areas like what I'm in right here, it just looks more clean and professional mainly because of the fall off between the darks and the lights. So it's one of those things that I can't believe we have in a sensor this size and allows me to color grade. I'm currently shooting in D-Log right now. It's the DJI log, which isn't a full log like you get on a full frame Sony, but it still allows you to do some grading and to apply LUTs and do that sort of thing and make it look as good as possible. Very handy feature. One of the things you absolutely have to talk about when you're talking about the DJI Pocket 3 is the gimbal. The gimbal is one of the biggest selling features because it's a feature that's not normally built into such a small camera, like an action camera, for example. What it allows you to do is, one, get very stable footage because it's working like any gimbal would, keeping the horizon horizontal. and it's keeping things nice and smooth. There's still, of course, you get a bit of your footstep movement if you're not careful. But the other big feature that it has that isn't necessarily included with all gimbals is auto tracking. So all I had to do for this was in my Mimo app, just make a box around myself from a distance, start recording and walk, and then the gimbal automatically tracks me wherever I go. Very handy. Get that off of your mind so that you don't have to think about it, don't have to carry a gimbal. Very useful. That was a chickadee. One of the major things that makes a product successful or that makes it more powerful is its ecosystem. After using this for a few months, there's no denying that the DJI Mic II, as part of DJI's ecosystem, makes the Pocket 3 a much more powerful device. Not only can I record my voice with great clarity, and yes, there are debates on which is the best mic between having the Rode Pro and the DJI Mic II, but in the case when you're using this particular device, or the Pocket 3, is that it automatically connects every single time you turn it on with the Pocket 3. There's no having to think about it. There's actually no recording on the Pocket 3 when you have the DJI Mic II where you forget to turn it on. It gives you lots of feedback in the case of having a bar that pops around. I can see it from here even though I'm quite far from the camera itself. It shows you that it's on. While it's on, not only is it recording directly onto the Pocket 3 wirelessly, but it's also creating a 32-bit float file inside the actual receiver itself. Is it a receiver or transmitter? I keep getting them mixed up. Anyways, the microphone. So I have a 32-bit float version here, so if anything goes wrong with the wireless version, either cutting out or clipping, I can fix any of that stuff in post. And even beyond that, there's a whole bunch of microphones on the Pocket 3 itself that are recording the ambient noise around the camera. So if you want to include some of that ambient noise and you want to hear the traffic of the highway that's down there, or you want to hear footsteps or anything like that, you can include both at the same time. That to me is one of the most incredible features of the Pocket 3. One I knew was going to be handy, but it actually makes it my absolute favorite thing to do video on now, because I have no idea how I can mess up the audio at this point. While I was out filming this morning, I attempted to show what the size of the case was, or the entire kit that I had while I was filming was like, but I realized I couldn't film the camera very easily. So what I'm doing instead is I want to show you exactly what I had with me. I hold everything in this case, which is a Peak Design 6-liter sling that I got this year. And inside I have only my Pocket 3 inside of a Scotty Make Stuff case. I have the DJI mic on top here that I keep when I'm not using it. Of course, that's not the one that's recording right now. I'm using a different one. So that was in the case with it. And then I just have that ready to shoot as is. Now when I use it, when I'm using a selfie stick or a tripod, all I use is this Insta360 selfie stick that also converts into a tripod, and quite a long one at that. You see there, it goes about maybe 4.5 feet high, maybe 4 feet high, I'm not sure which. And on top of that, oops, that was loud, is I put an F38 Ulanzi or Falcam F38 clip on here, so I can take this on and off very quickly. So I can use it on anything and without it if I need to. So that was my entire kit. That kit is so small compared to something I would have normally used if I was using a mirrorless camera, and a full size or even a travel tripod would have taken up way more room. That was just one of the points I wanted to get across about how simple things can be that allows you to be more creative. One of the more boring topics that you can come up with for the what makes the DJI Pocket 3 great is the cost of it. It's a lot more accessible than your typical setup. You don't have to buy a big SLR, or sorry, more likely a mirrorless camera. You don't have to buy a gimbal. You can get a relatively inexpensive microphone for it. You have everything built in. So that alone makes it a lot more accessible so that more people can use devices like this. And once they learn to use it, then they can be a lot more creative. Well, thanks a lot for joining me for this video. I really enjoyed making this one because it allowed me to use all of the features with the Pocket 3 that make it easier to shoot with and increase my creativity. That, of course, this wasn't the most creative video in the world, but allowed me to do some pretty basic stuff without a lot of thought needed. I could just do whatever I had in mind. If you have any other features that you like with the Pocket 3 that you've enjoyed that help you do things a lot more easily, please feel free to share them in the comments. For now, I'm going to end this video, and if you would like it or enjoyed it in any way, please feel free to like it. And if you want to subscribe for anything similar to this in the future, please feel free. Until then, let's head out. We'll see you later.